Welcome to Week in Geek, your new comic preview for November 9th. I'm Mike Ortiz.
And I'm the Chris Brown.
What do you got?
It's a light one.
It is a light one.
It's a light one this week.
We've had some big weeks.
We're going to move some things around here. All right.
They're giving us a breather.
They are. Yeah, it's the light in all regards. Not a lot of Marvel, not a lot of DC, and as you mentioned moments ago before we started going here, not much in the way of creator owned.
So you're gonna breathe. This will let me catch up.
Yeah, right.
On those new 52s that I'm behind on that we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a second.
So I'm going to lead off with this Battle Scars #1. It's with the Shattered Heroes banner. I feel like Battle Scars #1. Sigh. That's the real title, Battle Scars #1.
I think you got the Battle Scars on this one.
Yeah, right. For real. I just feel like they're just coming at us with so many of these events, but I am curious what they're going to do. Because I ultimately like it when all the heroes get together.
Yeah.
And, that's what they're doing with a lot of this stuff, and I like it. I just almost wish they'd find a more of a focus rather than just everything seems so broad. And this whole event since Fear itself just seems, I feel like I don't even know what they're doing or what they're trying to accomplish. But I'm curious, we got some fun characters on the cover here, Fury, Taskmaster, Cap, and Hawkeye. I'm going to give it a go. And it's one of these books written by several people, so looks like it's going to lead into this Avengers X sanction, but it's also, this one's written by Chris Yost, Cullen Bunn, and Matt Fraction, at least the story, and it's scripted by Chris Yost.
You don't like any of those guys, do you? Well, Cullen Bunn.
Yeah, I got nothing against Cullen Bunn. The other guys, then we've got the new Dark Avengers, number 18. It's basically Norman is putting together yet another Dark Avengers team. It's the whole thing with him getting together with the AIM guys and the Hand and, all that sort of stuff. Hydra, and he's rebuilding Hammer.
Okay.
It was all right. He goes after Scar and, all these other people and basically just puts his team together. That's what's going on in this issue. Mike Deodato does the artwork. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Really, really pretty. It was an alright issue. I like Norman Osborn. I like it when he's causing trouble. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll fit into this direction that they're doing, whatever they're doing.
Gotten out of jail pretty quickly.
Well, he sort of escaped. There was that mini-series that they did, and then they sort of just let him go.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like a Guantanamo situation. They hadn't actually charged him with anything. Then I've got, I'm going to switch over to a little 52s here. Got Resurrection Man #3. I like this book so far. It's fun. I didn't know anything about it before. I'm kind of getting to know the character as the story's unfolding. I like it. It's basically a guy that every time he dies, he just wakes up again, kind of keeps going, kind of a new identity sort of thing.
A new power, I think.
I think that's what it is. Yeah. So it just keeps kind of putting things together, and this looks like they're kind of building up to get him some people to fight. There's these chicks that were going after him, and so I liked that last issue. I'm gonna keep reading this for a while. We'll do some more here. Then we've got Demon Knights #3. Now, admittedly, I'm an issue behind on this one.
Me too.
I do have to catch up, but I liked the first issue. I thought it definitely showed promise. We've said nice things about Paul Cornell. I really liked that Action Comics run that he did.
Right.
I'm curious to see where this is going. One of my customers mentioned that he didn't like it because he felt like it was Dungeons & Dragons done poorly.
Yeah.
And I sort of laughed. I'm like, I'm not a Dungeons & Dragons guy. I liked it. So apparently for me, the reason I don't play Dungeons & Dragons is because I don't like it done well.
Yeah.
But poorly, I'll take it all day. It'd be better if that demon was rhyming.
Someone made a point that the first one actually has a scene where everybody gathers together in a tavern because that happens in every single Dungeons & Dragons game ever played.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that. Then we've got Fear Itself 7.2. This is the Thor issue. It's Matt Fraction. Yeah. Let's see how he follows up.
I really liked 7.1 a lot.
I did too. A whole lot.
That was the best thing out of everything that had Fear Itself on the title.
Well, do you know what it felt like? And we don't want to spoil your fun, but there's going to be some spoiler alerts here on that 7.1. Bucky's not dead.
Yeah.
They brought Bucky back. There was a faint heartbeat. Nick Fury and who was...
Natasha,
the Black Widow. They decide they're going to give him the Infinity Formula and see if it works, and it does. And then they're kind of, in this issue, they're breaking it to Steve. Hey, sorry we lied to you, but we kind of needed this to go down this way.
Right.
Pretty interesting. It really felt to me like it just invalidates everything that Matt Fraction did in Fear Itself even more. It was like, all right, we're going to give you Bucky so something happens in your book. Like, I felt like nothing happened in that book. Issue 3 was like, hey, something happened. We killed Bucky. Hey, good for you. You killed a great character. And then obviously Brubaker still had plans.
Right.
Shh, we didn't really kill him. I like how they brought it out. I like the way they did the story, but it just further says to me they were throwing Fraction a bone, let him do something that looked like something happened, and then it didn't even happen. So even the one thing that happened in that story didn't even happen.
I actually heard an interview with Matt Fraction talking about these books, and I guess these were not originally going to be titled Fear Itself. They were going to be one-shots. They were basically intended to... The Captain America was really supposed to be the epilogue that would have appeared in the Captain America book.
Okay.
It was almost like a double ship. So this really is almost like an issue of Thor.
That's
and
fine.
The next one is an issue of Iron Man. So
then it should have just been in Thor. I understand why Marvel markets it this way.
Yeah, they wanted to
I'm
sell
reading
more
Cap
copies.
and I read Thor, so I'm good
yeah.
here. I'll probably avoid the Iron Man one because I just don't read it.
If you're reading Thor and Cap or Iron Man, these are all pretty much part of those books.
And it certainly looks that way.
They're done by the creative teams from those books, so that makes a lot of sense. These were not intended to be Fear Itself in the first place. So
just
if you
epilogues.
If you didn't like Fear Itself, don't let that scare you off. These are actually not.
Yes.
These are not the end of Fear Itself, despite what the numbering says. This is the beginning of what comes after.
Correct, and sort of the aftermath of what came before, but how it's now going to affect the book that it's supposed to be in.
Yeah. So,
and that Captain America one was awesome.
That was great.
It was really. If you didn't pick it up, you should pick it up.
It was really Winter Soldier .1.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, this one is actually going to introduce, I think, the character that's taking over for Thor in Thor's book now that he's dead. Because Loki took over for Thor in his old book, and now we've got a new guy taking over for Thor, and it's just a mess.
Kinda. So, and speaking of, Journey into Mystery. This book's been coming out bi-weekly.
The other Thor book that's not going to have Thor in it.
Oh, this looks like, Will Portacio doing the pencils.
Oh, wow.
We don't get to see him do stuff too often.
No, you don't.
Looks pretty good. I've always enjoyed his stuff. You know, he did X-Men for years,
Actually,
and then he went over to Image.
It looks like Goodwill. There was a while where we were getting some kind of
slappy
stuff.
Yeah.
That Batman book he did a few years ago was
I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks really good. I think this Journey into Mystery book's been great fun. Kieran Gillen is really telling a nice story here. I like how he's fleshing out kind of more of that mythos. You know, he's blending in the Hell and Mephisto and all this stuff with young Loki, who's still causing trouble but kind of trying to do the right thing. He's kind of a hero but kind of not. Right. I like it. I think it's a lot of fun. And that is the bulk of my stack. Short one this week.
I have a short week also. I'm going to lead off with some new 52. I got Batman and Robin. This has been an interesting book. I mean, this is one where I've been tempted to drop many times. I finally did get caught up on this. I'm not really sure where the story is, the story that's being told here necessarily, but what I really like is they're taking the title very seriously. This is Batman and Robin. This is about the relationship between these two characters. And originally it was Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne. So they had a particular dynamic. Now that you've got Bruce there, now that you've got an actual literal father and son, you really see a very different dynamic. Bruce looks upon Damian as kind of is sort of his error. The Damian was the result of him letting his passions take control years earlier, and then he gets kind of warped by his mother, so it's almost a weird sort of inversion. Normally the Robins have had some sort of tragedy in their lives.
Yeah.
This time Robin himself is the tragedy, and Batman is trying to fix that and repair this damaged boy. So that stuff is fantastic. I mean, I think the character relationships in this book are great. I'm not a big fan of Damian Wayne because I really don't like the idea of Robin being a literal son for Batman. But because this is addressing that, and this is really taking that very seriously, and I think that the characters in this are really good, even if I still don't quite know what the plot is.
Okay.
Next up, Green Lantern number 3. Sinestro is still the Green Lantern in this. In the last issue, Hal got a ring, but a ring that's under the control of Sinestro.
I liked that.
So, yeah, there's a really nice dynamic. I mean, those two characters have had a great dynamic for many years. How many times can I say dynamic in this review?
Well, and, Andrew Elia pointed out, so many people are kind of questioning some of these things. How come Sinestro couldn't do any of these things before? Mm-hmm. Well, he's the greatest Green Lantern, not the greatest Yellow Lantern.
Yeah.
So he can do stuff when he's a Green Lantern that he couldn't do when he was a Yellow Lantern, and it's pretty interesting.
It is the new 52.
Right.
Things may work a little different.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I really like this book. I've always loved Green Lantern. One of my favorite books, my single biggest comic book collection. Sinestro's a great character. I think he's better now than he's been in a long time.
Yes.
I think making him a Green Lantern is kind of reminding us that this guy wasn't necessarily... It's changing him into almost a Magneto sort of character.
Sure.
He was really kind of, in his own mind, he's the good guy.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's been a good book. Green Lantern has been one of the ones that's really got... They didn't reboot the continuity. Everything that happened before was still there, but it kind of just drifted, really, I think, since the end of the Sinestro Corps War.
Yes.
It was treading water during Blackest Night. After Blackest Night, that War of the Lantern stuff was interesting, but it felt like they just knew this was coming and they really couldn't do much. Now that they can move forward again, book's back on track. Next up, Ultimate Comics Spider-Man number 4, or Ultimate Spider-Man number 4. This has been a pretty good book.
Okay.
The main character, Miles Morales, he's got powers similar to Spider-Man, but they're not exact. He's got a few other powers. We've found out so far that he got his powers essentially from the same group of genetically modified spiders that Peter did, that another spider kind of got out. The way that he gets bitten is kind of contrived, but that might play out a little bit more. But it's very clearly a different character. This is a character that didn't want to be a hero. He got his abilities. He was just like, I don't want supervillains chasing me. Once he got his powers, he just decided not to do anything with them. He had dreams that Electro was trying to kill him, so he's really definitely against being a hero until he comes into a situation where some people are going to die in a burning building, and he saves them, and then still decides he doesn't want to do this because the world already has a Spider-Man and doesn't need another one. Last issue ended with him finding out that Peter Parker had been shot. Not dead yet, so I'm guessing this issue is going to deal with him deciding to take up that mantle after Peter Parker is dead. So now we're kind of catching it up to the present a little bit more. Good stuff. Slow moving like the original Ultimate Spider-Man book, but I think this is an interesting character, and he doesn't have any of the baggage that Spider-Man had before. I only kind of hope that they don't throw Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery at him very quickly. If this is a new Spider-Man, let's try and do something new with him. Next up, Uncanny X-Force. I believe this is the end of the Dark Angel saga, where Warren Worthington has become the new Apocalypse.
That's pretty cool.
Psylocke has become his new Angel of Death, or Horseman of Death. So, I mean, there's some big stuff going on in this book. And Rick Remender's doing a great job. It's all very tight. It's not like flowing into other X-Men books, which is pretty good. But yeah, I mean, these are the characters that are willing to kill. This is the dark side of the X-Men. So good stuff. Next up, The Unwritten. It's really getting harder and harder to describe this book as it's going on because it's very complicated.
Yes.
The last set of issues dealt with, took kind of place in the past, dealing with really at the dawn of the comic book industry and the idea of how stories as a mass medium have a different power than stories is kind of more of a literary thing. The book it's you can't describe the plot. It's a meditation on stories. The best way that I came up with it was it's a grown-up Harry Potter meets Promethea with a little bit of Sandman thrown in. It's
with the principles of Inkheart.
Never's Inkheart.
It was originally a book, and then they turned it into a movie, and it was literally characters coming out of books and being lost and not understanding how they got out of their stories and needing to go back. And
so, yeah, there's a big overriding mystery. Tommy Taylor is essentially Harry Potter.
Yep.
He had a bunch of books written about him by his father. Then it turns out he may not be a real boy. He may be a fictional character that's manifested into this world.
Correct.
Still not quite sure how. I think the mystery of who Tommy is being chipped away at, but I think that's the big story. There's this conspiracy, this group that's manipulating stories to manipulate.
I like how Frankenstein's part to play in the whole
Frankenstein
thing.
Is in it. Moby Dick has been in it. There's a lot. Pretty much any public domain story is probably going to get reflected in here because this is about stories. It's a story about stories, and it's a great story at that.
It is.
So that's my short stack.
All right. Now, okay, to bring me to my top pick. Now, this is kind of funny. This might be the first time that my top pick is something that I'm not even that excited about.
No, I was surprised when I found out what it is.
I'm curious to read it. It is Avenging Spider-Man #1. Now, the reason I am not that excited about it is because it has been my impression in the past that Zeb Wells is a terrible writer. Just my opinion. It's purely my opinion, but it's a new Spider-Man book. It's art by Joe Mattiera, and it does look pretty good. You know, I said lately I hadn't been loving it. This does look pretty good. It looks like they're fighting some creatures. You know, it looks like almost like a team book. He's here with Wolverine and Red Hulk.
With the name
Cap.
Avenging Spider-Man, I was assuming that it was going to tie in with the Avengers a little bit more than his regular book.
Okay, and there is Cap is in here. So Cap is in this book. So I'm certainly curious about it, and I do like Joe Mattiera's art. But I just, man, Zeb Wells just doesn't, I don't know what it is. Like, I remember that he wrote some Sandman story for Amazing Spider-Man years ago, and it was just, came off as overly silly and just didn't work for me in any way, shape, or form. And I think Sam Keefe even did the art, and even still I was like, ugh. But that it is my top pick because I'm curious. I'm going to read it. It's got the Mole Man in here and the Moloids, and so it looks cool. Like, the artwork certainly looks pretty, so I just kind of hope it doesn't suck.
I always like when Spider-Man interacts with the Marvel Universe. That was one of the bad things about the Brand New Day, is they sort of shunted him off into his own corner. Now, between the regular book and this, Spider-Man's back with the other superheroes.
And I like that. And one thing to mention with this book, too, is it does come polybagged, and it's got the digital code in it for digital comic. So you can download the same book digitally. They're trying to one-up DC, like, oh, we're going to make ours the same price. Really? Because it's a 32-page comic with 22 pages of story and art that issue #1 started at $3.99, which Marvel told us they weren't going to do anymore. But they did it, and they're charging, so it should have been $2.99, and it probably would have been if it didn't have that digital code in it, because it's got the digital code in it. It's an extra $1, which is the same thing that DC's doing. Yeah. But theirs is $3.99 as opposed to $4.99 because, well, this is...
If there was no digital code, it would have still been $3.99.
It would have been, but I think that was probably part of the decision was, I don't know what to hell with it. Let's put it in there. Who cares? But they said they weren't doing that anymore, but they did. We shall see.
Yeah.
I don't know if Zeb Wells is worth the extra buck, but it's been a while since I've read his stuff and didn't like it. So,
well, as we've mentioned before, Marvel clearly owns a bag company now. So.
And a paper company, because they have sheets of yellow paper in behind everything, so you couldn't read the code through the back page.
Maybe they should just start selling some Marvel bags.
There you go.
Why not? All right, well, my top pick is Marvel Point One. Now, the Point One initiative idea concept has gotten a lot of flack. Originally they were jumping on points, and then they started using the Point One things for other stuff, and Fear itself's got Point Ones, and now there's not even a title; it's just a Point One.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't care. I mean, for me, don't judge it on whether or not the marketing department's come up with kind of a dopey name. Judge it on whether the book's any good.
Agreed.
A lot of the Point Ones were very good. Fear itself. Point One, first one was fantastic.
Yes.
So I'm just going to pretend that this is Marvel Future Sampler or whatever.
In the 90s, this would have been the Marvel Universe Zero.
Yeah. So this
would have been polybagged, and it probably would have been foil embossed.
The future begins here. I would have liked that. Let's bring back some foil covers. I'm not kidding either. I really did like, not all of them, but some of them were awesome. And the die cut ones. Anyway. But this is basically kind of almost a sampler of what's to come.
Yeah.
In the Marvel universe, DC has kind of shown us what's their new universe is. Basically, if you thought Fear itself was kind of a mess and a lot of that, I'm hoping that this is just kind of okay, let's move on. We've got previews of the Defenders, the new Defenders book, which I'm looking forward to. Scarlet Spider, which I'm not so sure about. Nova is apparently back. I thought he was, dead or trapped in an alternate universe or whatever. Somehow they bring him back. So yeah, this is pretty much, if you want to know where the Marvel Universe is heading in 2012, this is the book that's going to sort of give you the beginnings of those stories. Some people don't like the idea of paying for something like this, thinking that basically if this is just a commercial, but it's a preview.
It looks pretty thick. It's a pretty thick book. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on. It's $5.99, but if you buy it from Comics and More, I'm going to give you 30% off of the Marvel Point One. So that'll bring it down to $4.19.
There you go.
So it'd be $4.19 instead of $5.99. Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, and there's a lot of story in here. There's some. There's a bunch. There's got the Watcher.
That art looks great too.
Yeah. So I don't know who quite did this.
It's in the back right before the X-Sanction agenda.
They got to start being more consistent with where they put the credits. So yeah, we got some Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness, Ed Brubaker and Javier Polito, Dave Lapham, Chris Yost, Matt Fraction and Terry Dodson, Bendis, Fred Van Lente. So it's some great people in here. So hopefully this will pay off, and some of the stuff will be good enough to get you to pick up the books when they come out. I'm pretty much already committed to Defenders.
I'm gonna read it. It's got Iron Fist in it.
But yeah, so if you want to know where the Marvel Universe is going because you're tired of where it's been, check this out.
There you go. And with that, that is your Week in Geek.